We're heading into Townsville, which is our second fuel race, so I thought this is a good opportunity to talk about fuel tanks, capacity, and how we go about getting the fuel out of them, and of course how efficient the cars are nowadays compared to the old cars, which we have a much better picture of being halfway into the season. So the first thing we do to meet capacity, these tanks, which you can see are quite deep and big and very differently shaped to what we used last year. These fuel tanks are meant to be set at 133 litres. They always come a little oversized, and so we have to trim them back to whatever we require under 133. So it might be 132 and a half or a little bit over that. It depends on the team. How we go about that is we have these balls that we stick down the side of the fuel tank foam in the tank, which increases the capacity. So this one's 160, this one's 180, and we have bigger ones, which I don't have any to show you, which are set at 500. On top of that, we have these tubes that we stick in the fuel tank as well. So it has a cover over here. This latches to that cover and it will sit in here. It's got a hole cut in it already in the foam, and that will trim up the fuel tank. So between the balls and these tubes, we get the fuel tank capacity wherever we want to. What's interesting is the new engine is 5% more efficient than the old one. So not only will we go further because we've got more fuel in the car, but the cars are proving to be more efficient. The other interesting thing about when you dive into a fuel tank is the foam. If you have a look at this foam, all the fuel tanks need to be full of them. So we have it for a couple of reasons. One, it stops the fuel sloshing around so much because it has to run through the foam, which is also part of another reason that we have it is if you have an accident and this gets damaged, instead of have fuel going everywhere, the fuel tank foam will slow all that down. The fuel pot that pumps the fuel out of this tank and into the engine gets placed in here on this side. And as I said, these are all pre-cut, so all these holes are done. We have lift pumps, which are right down the bottom of the tank, and they pump the fuel up into the pot, and then the pot has a pump which pumps it into the engine. When it gets to the regulator, it works out how much fuel the engine needs, and the excess gets shot back here into the fuel tank. What's interesting is the lift pumps will go faster than what we can refuel the car. So when we come into a pit stop, if the fuel pot is half, and it's big enough you can do a lap of Bathurst in the pot, but if it's only half full, those lift pumps will fill it up before the car is full. So when you finish and leave the pits, the car is absolutely full of petrol. So that gives you a bit of a snapshot on what the fuel tank does and the fuel economy we'll get at Townsville. It'll be really interesting to see how we go, this being the second one.